You've played Final Fantasy VII, you've beaten Chrono Trigger, but there's an entire generation of JRPGs that are better designed than most modern games, and you probably never played them. Today, we're counting down 15 classic JRPGs with zero bloat, zero filler, and zero respect for your backlog. Just pure, concentrated game design from an era when 40 hours of cartridge space forced developers to make every moment count. Let's go. All right, starting with the most obscure game on this list. Terranigma never even came out in North America. It released in Europe and Japan only, which means it's basically the JRPG equivalent of a lost film. Here's what makes it insane. Instead of saving the world, you're literally resurrecting it from scratch. You start in the underworld, and your job is to bring back the continents, then plants, then animals, then humanity itself. The SNES is pushing Mode 7 graphics to render an actual rotating Earth that you're rebuilding piece by piece. It's conceptually massive. The story deals with some genuinely heavy philosophical stuff. Dualism, the nature of existence, why things have to die for other things to live. The ending is one of those gut punch moments where the protagonist has to accept that he's not meant to exist in the world he created. It's poetic in a way most games don't even attempt. The tragedy here is that developer Quintet dissolved, and the rights are a complete mess. Square Enix technically owns it, but it's never been ported to anything. No virtual console, no Switch Online, nothing. Your only legal option in 2025 is tracking down a European SNES cartridge, which is ridiculous. It's basically abandonware, which is a crime because this game is legitimately special. Number 14, Parasite Eve. Parasite Eve is Square's what if we made Resident Evil but with Final Fantasy combat experiment. And somehow it works perfectly. You're playing as Aya Brea, a New York cop dealing with a mitochondria-based apocalypse during Christmas. The entire game is set in a photorealistic, for 1998, Manhattan, and the vibe is pure survival horror thriller. It's only 10-12 hours long, which sounds short, but that's the genius. There's zero filler. Every encounter matters. Every boss is memorable. The pacing is film tight. Combat is this hybrid where you're moving around a 3D arena in real time while your ATB gauge fills up. You have to physically dodge projectiles and attacks, then pause the action to target specific body parts on enemies. It's tense in a way turn-based combat usually isn't, because you're combining reflex action with tactical decision-making. The problem? Licensing hell. The game is based on a Japanese horror novel by Hideaki Senna, and apparently the game rights and the book rights are separate entities. So even though Square Enix owns the game, they can't re-release it without navigating this legal nightmare. It's not on PlayStation Plus. It's not anywhere officially. You're emulating or you're not playing it, which sucks because this game deserves to be discovered by a new generation.
Number 13, Dragon Quest V. Dragon Quest V does something basically no other JRPG has pulled off. It tells a story that spans your entire life. You witness your protagonist's birth, watch him get enslaved as a child, see him escape and grow into adulthood, get married, and then raise his own kids who eventually join your party. It's a genuine generational epic. The marriage decision is legendary. You're choosing between Bianca, your childhood friend who's been through hell with you, or Nera, the rich girl your father wanted you to marry. In the DS and mobile versions, they added Deborah, Nera's abrasive older sister, just to mess with players even more. This choice affects dialogue throughout the entire rest of the game and changes what your kids look like. It's one of the most significant decisions in JRPG history because it actually matters on an emotional level. The monster taming system, which predates Pokémon by 4 years, fits perfectly with the game's themes of connection and family. After battles, monsters have a chance to join your party. You're building this eclectic found family of humans, slimes, dragons, and golems. It reinforces the idea that bonds transcend species. Here's the weird part. The best version to play in 2025 is the mobile port. I know that sounds wrong, but it's based on the superior DS remake, with high-res textures, includes the party chat system that was cut from the PS2 version, and supports one-handed portrait mode. It's legitimately the definitive way to experience this game, which feels bizarre to say about a mobile port.
Number 12. Golden Sun 1 and 2. Golden Sun treats magic like it's a Zelda game, and that's what makes it special. Most JRPGs, your magic is purely for combat. Golden Sun says, what if we made spells solve environmental puzzles? You're using Move to telekinetically shift objects, Frost to freeze water into climbable pillars, Growth to sprout vines that become platforms. The dungeons are intricate puzzle boxes that require actual spatial reasoning. It feels closer to solving a Zelda temple than grinding through a Final Fantasy dungeon. The battle system uses the Jin system, which is basically Pokemon meets Final Fantasy's job system. Jin are creatures you equip to characters to change their stats and abilities. Moving them around mid-battle alters your class in real time, which creates this fascinating risk-reward dynamic where you're constantly deciding whether to use a powerful summon or keep your class bonuses active. Here's the thing people forget. Golden Sun and The Lost Age aren't really two games. They're one continuous story that was too big for a single GBA cartridge. The original password transfer system, or link cable if you were hardcore, carries over your entire party, all your Jin, and your items from the first game to the second. The finale of The Lost Age unites both parties into one massive roster, and that moment feels earned in a way few sequels pull off. Both games hit Nintendo Switch Online in January 2024, and that's objectively the best way to play them now. The password system is automated, you get save states, and the online multiplayer for the arena mode actually works. It's preservation done right. Number 11. Xenogears. Xenogears is the most intellectually ambitious JRPG ever made, and it's also famously unfinished. Both of those things are true simultaneously. The story is drowning in Gnosticism, Jungian psychology, and Nietzschean philosophy. You're dealing with concepts like the weaponization of religion, the cycle of reincarnation across millennia, and what it even means to be human versus being a tool of God. The protagonist, Feifong Wang, has a backstory that spans 10,000 years. This game is not messing around thematically. The infamous Disc 2 problem. The development team ran out of time and money, so instead of traditional gameplay, you get long visual novel sequences where characters narrate what's happening, interrupted by boss battles. In 1998, critics hated this. In 2025, some people argue it's actually a genius narrative device that focuses purely on resolving the absurdly complex plot without forcing players to slog through filler dungeons. I'm somewhere in the middle. It's fascinating, but undeniably flawed. The combat mixes turn-based battles with fighting game inputs. You're chaining weak, medium, and strong attacks to execute special moves called death blows, and the system rewards memorization and timing. When you're piloting giant mechs called gears, the scale shifts completely, and battles become these massive, spectacular set-piece moments. Availability is the killer issue. As of December 2025, Xenogears is still not on PlayStation Plus Premium, which is baffling. Your best bet is emulation using DuckStation, which lets you speed up the notoriously slow text and apply texture fixes. It's ridiculous that one of the most important JRPGs of all time is stranded on legacy hardware because of licensing or corporate negligence.
Number 10. Final Fantasy VII. Look, everyone knows the story. Eco-terrorism, corporate dystopia, identity crisis, Sephiroth. It's been dissected to death. What still holds up is the materia system, which is the most flexible character customization in the entire FF series. Materia are these crystallized magic orbs you slot into weapons and armor. Any character can use any materia, which means there are no fixed roles. Cloud can be your white mage, Barret can be your summoner, Tifa can spam lightning spells. The job system is completely modular. The genius is in the linking. You have blue support materia that modify other materia when slotted next to them. Link Elemental with fire on your armor, you resist fire damage. Link Added Effect with Hades on your weapon, every physical attack inflicts random status ailments. Link All with life, you're resurrecting your entire party at once. The combinations are absurd, and experimenting with builds is half the fun. With the remake trilogy stretching the original 40-hour story into 100+ hours across multiple games, the 1997 version has this weird renewed value. You get the complete narrative arc in one tight package. The modern ports on Switch and PS5 include built-in speed-up and no encounter cheats, so you can blast through random battles and just experience the story at whatever pace you want. It's not the best Final Fantasy mechanically, that's either 6 or Tactics depending on who you ask, but the materia system alone makes it worth revisiting even if you've played the remake.
Number 9. Star Ocean: The Second Story R. This 2023 remake is the gold standard for how to modernize a PS1 classic without ruining what made it special. The 2.5D aesthetic places the original 2D character sprites in gorgeous 3D environments with modern lighting and particle effects. It looks stunning on PS5 and PC, but more importantly, it preserves the nostalgic pixel art charm while leveraging current-gen hardware. It's the visual style every PS1 remake should be copying. The narrative splits between two protagonists, Claude, who's from a sci-fi universe, and Rena, who's from a fantasy world. The private action system lets you split the party in towns to have one-on-one conversations with your team members. These interactions affect friendship points and romance points, which determine which of the 80+ endings you get. That replayability is real. You can't see everything in one run, and the branching paths encourage multiple playthroughs. Combat got a massive overhaul. Enemies now have shield gauges you need to break before dealing real damage, which adds a layer of strategy. The Assault action system lets you map reserve party members to controller buttons for instant assist attacks, so your bench characters aren't just sitting there. The roster is huge. Characters like Diaz and Ashton have completely different storylines depending on who you recruit, and this system ensures everyone stays mechanically relevant. If you've never played the original, this is the version. If you loved the PS1 game, this is still worth it because the quality of life improvements and combat changes make it feel like a new experience.
Number 8. Grandia. Grandia has the best combat system of the PS1 era, and I will fight people on this. It uses the IP gauge, which visualizes the turn order as a timeline running across the screen. The critical mechanic is the counter-cancel system. If you land a heavy attack on an enemy while their icon is in the command or act phase of the gauge, you knock them back or straight up cancel their turn. This turns combat into a rhythm game where positioning, timing, and targeting priorities matter more than raw stats. You can absolutely dominate enemies twice your level if you master the cancel timing. The story is pure adventure. It's not saving the world from an ancient evil. It's a kid named Justin who wants to explore the world and find the lost city at the end of the world. The tone is optimistic and earnest in a way that feels refreshing compared to the grim dark trends in modern RPGs. The Grandia HD collection is available on Switch, PS4, and PC. The original release had some technical issues, audio desync, aggressive sprite smoothing, and occasional frame drops, but patches throughout 2020-2021 addressed most of these problems. The Steam version is generally considered the most stable, with the Switch version being perfectly playable after updates. If you're picking it up today, you're getting a much cleaner experience than early adopters did. If you care about combat systems, like really care about the mechanical loop feeling satisfying, Grandia is mandatory. It set a standard most JRPGs still haven't matched.
Number 7. Earthbound. Earthbound is the indie game before indie games existed. Instead of fighting dragons in a fantasy kingdom, you're fighting new age retro hippies, unassuming local guys, and sentient piles of vomit in 1990s Americana. The setting is Eagle Land, which is a parody of suburban America, and the entire game has this surreal, off-kilter tone that's simultaneously funny and genuinely unsettling. The final boss is an incomprehensible cosmic horror entity, but you're fighting it with a baseball bat and psychic powers. The rolling HP meter is genius. When you take damage, your health doesn't drop instantly. It rolls down like an odometer in real time. If a character takes lethal damage, they don't die immediately. If you can finish the battle or heal them before the counter hits 0, they survive. This adds real-time tension to turn-based combat and rewards quick decision-making and fast menu navigation. Shigesato Itoi's writing is the secret weapon here. The dialogue is weird, warm, and often surprisingly emotional. NPCs say things that stick with you. The game deals with themes of childhood, growing up, and facing incomprehensible fear, and it does so without ever feeling preachy or heavy-handed. As of 2025, Earthbound is on Switch Online, which means it's easily accessible without paying $300 plus for an original SNES cartridge. The fact that it's in the standard NSO library and not locked behind the expansion pack is a small miracle. If you've heard about this game for years but never played it, there's no excuse now.
Number 6. Dragon Quest VIII. Dragon Quest VIII is the moment the franchise successfully made the jump to 3D without losing what makes Dragon Quest feel like Dragon Quest. Level 5 developed it, the studio behind Dark Cloud, and they nailed the transition. The cel-shaded art style makes Akira Toriyama's character designs pop in 3 dimensions. It feels like playing a Dragon Ball anime, and that visual identity set the template for every DQ game since, including DQ11. The orchestral soundtrack is legitimately beautiful. In the West, we got the full symphonic score on PS2. The 3DS version has MIDI synth unless you mod it, which is a downgrade, but everything else about the 3DS port is superior. Here's the version breakdown. The 3DS version adds 2 new playable characters, Red and Mori, which significantly changes party dynamics and unlocks new story content and endings. It also replaces random encounters with visible enemies on the field, which is a massive QOL improvement. The downside is the visuals are compressed for handheld hardware. If you care about graphics, emulate the PS2 version on PC with HD texture packs. If you care about gameplay and content, the 3DS version is objectively better despite looking worse. The mobile version exists, but it's locked to portrait mode with touch controls, so unless you're desperate, skip it. This is comfort food JRPG design. Turn-based battles, straightforward progression, charming characters. There's no gimmick, it's just extremely well-executed traditional game design. And sometimes that's exactly what you want.
Number 5. Final Fantasy Tactics. Final Fantasy Tactics is a political thriller disguised as a tactical RPG. And the September 2025 remaster, The Ivalice Chronicles, is the definitive version we've been waiting for. The story is Shakespearean. It's about 2 childhood friends, Ramza and Delita, who get caught on opposite sides of a brutal class war. The writing is dense, complex, and doesn't hold your hand. Characters betray each other for pragmatic reasons. Nobles manipulate religion to control the masses. People die unceremoniously in random battles, and the story just moves on. It's mature in a way most games can't pull off. The job system is mathematically beautiful. You assign a primary class, like a dragoon or a black mage, and then layer on a secondary skill set from a different job. Then you add reaction abilities, support abilities, and movement abilities from other jobs. The combinatorics are insane. You can build a chemist who uses guns and teleports, a monk who casts geomancy spells, a knight who summons. The depth has kept the theory crafting community active for 28 years. The Ivalice Chronicles remaster adds quality of life features that make the infamous difficulty spikes more manageable. You can restart battles if the first few turns go poorly, crucial for the Wheagraph duel at Riovane's castle, which is a notorious run killer. The fast-forward toggle respects your time by speeding up the slow animations. The new UI makes it easier to see turn order and spell delays at a glance. The full voice acting adds weight to the Shakespearean script. If you've never played Tactics, this is the version. If you played the PSP War of the Lions version, this is still worth it for the QOL features alone.
Number 4. Persona 4 Golden. Persona 4 Golden is a game about solving a murder mystery in a small Japanese town. But it's really about the psychology of friendship and confronting the parts of yourself you're ashamed of. The calendar system is the core mechanic. You have limited gaze to balance dungeon crawling in the cognitive TV world with social simulation in real life. Time is your most valuable resource. Do you spend today improving your courage stat so you can unlock a dialogue option later, or do you grind dungeons? The genius is that these systems feed into each other. Maxing out social links gives you combat bonuses and unlocks the true ending. The narrative is explicitly Jungian. Every party member has a shadow self, the suppressed, ugly parts of their personality that they refuse to acknowledge. The bosses are manifestations of their insecurities, sexuality, imposter syndrome, fear of inadequacy, gender identity issues. When you defeat a shadow, the character has to accept it as part of themselves. It's introspective in a way most games avoid. By the time you reach the ending, you feel like you're saying goodbye to actual friends. The game creates this manufactured intimacy through the calendar system. You've spent 80 hours with these people, watching them grow and change. The final day genuinely hurts because the relationships felt real. The modern ports on PS5, Switch, and PC add quick save for handheld play, album mode to revisit social link scenes, and granular difficulty customization so you can tune the challenge exactly how you want it. If you bounced off Persona 5 because it's 120 hours long, P4G is tighter and more focused, while still delivering the same emotional payoff.
Number 3. Final Fantasy VI. Final Fantasy VI doesn't have a main character, and that's the entire point. You have 14 playable characters and the perspective shifts constantly. Terra is searching for her identity, Celeste is dealing with suicidal ideation and clinging to hope, Scion is processing grief after watching his family die, Edgar and Sabin are navigating their responsibility as royalty. No single character carries the entire thematic weight, which lets the game tackle a huge range of ideas without forcing one person to be everything. The Opera House sequence is the most famous scene in the entire franchise. It was a technical marvel on SNES. The game simulated vocals through synthesized instruments to create a theatrical experience. Narratively, it's the turning point for Celeste. She goes from hardened general to vulnerable romantic lead in one sequence, and it's executed flawlessly. The Pixel Remaster uses HD 2D rendering specifically for this scene to heighten the drama. Kefka is the rare villain who actually wins. Halfway through the game, he destroys the world. The second half takes place in a post-apocalyptic wasteland where your job is to reunite the scattered party and find a reason to keep fighting even though everything is already lost. It's nihilism versus hope, and the game earns its emotional resolution. The Pixel Remaster is the standard version to play in 2025, but there's a color theory debate. The original SNES release relied on CRT blurring to blend its limited palette into a moody steampunk aesthetic. The Pixel Remaster's raw, high-def output can look oversaturated on modern OLED screens. The fix? Drop in-game brightness to 40% or use scanline filters on PC. That restores the intended look. If you've only played 7 or 10, 6 is the one that proves Final Fantasy can tell complex ensemble narratives without relying on a single protagonist. Number 2. Suikoden II. Suikoden II is a geopolitical thriller where decent people commit atrocities in the name of peace, and it's one of the most emotionally devastating JRPGs ever made. The conflict between the Highland Kingdom and the Joustin city-states is the backdrop for a personal tragedy between the protagonist, Ryu, and his best friend, Joey. They're separated by war and forced onto opposite sides. The brilliance is that the game never makes Joey a villain. His actions are understandable given his circumstances. He's trying to create peace through authoritarian control, You're trying to create peace through democratic resistance. Neither of you is entirely right, and the game doesn't flinch from that moral ambiguity. Luca Blight is a force of nature. He's pure, unadulterated malice born from trauma, and the game doesn't try to redeem him or make him sympathetic. He's so dangerous that his defeat requires a multi-party ambush, an archer raid, and a one-on-one duel. No single hero can stop him, which reinforces that some evils require collective action to overcome. The 108 Stars of Destiny system turns recruitment into a gameplay loop. Every character you recruit adds functionality to your headquarters, a castle that visually grows as your army expands. Unit unlock unite attacks for battles, support units open shops, mini-games, and services. Exploration leads to recruitment, recruitment upgrades your base, and base upgrades enable further exploration. It's addictive. The March 2025 HD remaster brought this to modern platforms with improved quality of life features. Battle speed options at 2x and 4x let you breeze through random encounters. The inventory UI was overhauled. Drop rates for rare items were adjusted. The visual update has been somewhat divisive. The remastered backgrounds don't always mesh perfectly with the original pixel sprites, but Konami has released multiple patches throughout 2025, with version 1.03 in May addressing major bugs and adding new features like the ability to toggle whether music speeds up during fast battles. It's the most accessible way to play this masterpiece.
Chrono Trigger is the best JRPG ever made, and that's not nostalgia talking. The Dream Team collaboration between Hironobu Sakaguchi, Final Fantasy, Yuji Horii, Dragon Quest, and Akira Toriyama, Dragon Ball, created something that's never been replicated. Square and Enix were competitors. This project shouldn't have happened, but it did, and the result is a game that blends the emotional storytelling of FF with the adventurous charm of DQ. Time travel isn't just a story gimmick, it's a core mechanic. You're jumping between 65 million BC and 2300 AD, and your actions in the past permanently affect the future. The Sunstone side quest requires you to leave an item in the prehistoric era to charge for millions of years. That's deep time as a gameplay system. The New Game Plus and multiple endings were revolutionary. You can challenge the final boss, Lavos, at different points in the timeline, and the ending changes based on who's in your party and what events have occurred. Every choice has narrative weight, and the non-linearity was decades ahead of its time. The visible encounter system eliminated random battles, which was radical in 1995. Enemies appear on the field, and you can avoid them if you're skilled enough. Combat adds spatial positioning to the ATB system. Techs have areas of effect, so you're waiting for enemies to cluster before unleashing attacks. Dual and triple techs let characters combine moves, reinforcing the theme of cooperation through mechanics. For 2025, the PC version on Steam is the definitive way to play. The launch was rough, mobile port UI, filtered sprites, but extensive patching fixed everything. You get 21:9 ultra-wide support, raw pixel modes, proper controller support, and mod compatibility. It's the best legal version. Chrono Trigger is mechanically elegant, narratively ambitious, and respects your time in a way modern JRPGs have forgotten how to do. It's the blueprint every JRPG since has been chasing, and most of them still haven't caught up.
That's the list. 15 games that prove the golden era wasn't just about nostalgia, it was about design purity. These games don't waste your time. They don't bloat themselves with filler. They're just really, really good at what they do. If you haven't played these, fix that. If you have, maybe it's time for a replay. Drop a comment with your favorite, or tell me which one I'm completely wrong about. I'll see you in the next one.